If all we see is loss that comes with suffering in our lives, we will live as victims of that suffering. But if we can see the glory of God in the midst of suffering, we will live as more than conquerors. Joseph knew that each and every one of the sorrows, each and every one of the painful moments in his life, it had a purpose. God used his trials, God used his pain to preserve his family. Now, it would be very easy to go back and look at Joseph's story, right? Look at his life, especially those early years, and just see him as a victim, because you can see all the ways that he was harmed by the sins of others. But even though he suffered, I want you to know today, Joseph was never a victim. He was not a victim of his suffering, and here's why. Because in the midst of suffering, he didn't focus on the loss, he always focused on the gain. He chose to see how God used his suffering for good. Listen, if all we see is loss that comes with suffering in our lives, we will live as victims of that suffering. But if we can see the glory of God in the midst of suffering, we will live as more than conquerors. That's exactly how Jesus lived. That's exactly how Jesus died. For the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross. What was that joy? It was you and I. Even more than that, it was the glory of God. What brought Joseph to this place? In his mind, he says it could only be God. And so he refers to this act of God again and again. In fact, 5 times in this passage. He sees God's sovereignty in salvation. God sent me. Evil was used by God for good. Now, very often the world looks at kind of the details of life. And when things happen to come together a certain way, they'll often say, well, what a coincidence, right? What a coincidence that would happen. But that word coincidence, it only says that things have coincided. It does not explain why things have coincided. And so the next time when someone says, what a coincidence, you should ask them why, right? What is the explanation for things coming together like this in your life or in my life? Joseph knows why all these events have coincided. God willed it to be so.